Dr. Kim Min-ho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the giant machines one more time. The underground room was huge, filled with thousands of white sleeping pods that looked like metal coffins. Each pod would keep a person alive for 500 years while they slept. It was crazy to think about, but it was their only chance. "Min-ho, are you sure this will work?" Park So-young asked as she walked over to him. She was the smartest engineer he knew, but even she looked scared. Her hands shook as she held her tablet, showing green lights from all the sleeping chambers. Min-ho looked at her tired face. They had been working for 3 years to build this place. Outside, the world was ending. The air was poison, the oceans were dead, and people were fighting wars over the last clean water. "It has to work," he said quietly. "We have no other choice." The year 2157 would be remembered as the year humanity went to sleep. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. The planet was dying, and they were the reason why. Too much pollution, too many wars, too much greed. Now they would sleep underground while machines tried to fix what they had broken. Lee Jun-woo stood near his sleeping pod with his wife Mi-ran. They were both young, only 25 years old. They should have had their whole lives ahead of them. Instead, they were about to sleep for 5 centuries and hope they would wake up to a better world. "I'm scared," Mi-ran whispered, holding Jun-woo's hand tight. Her eyes were red from crying. "I know," Jun-woo said, trying to be strong for her. "But think about it. When we wake up, the trees will be green again, the air will be clean, we'll have children, and they'll play in real parks with real grass." Mi-ran smiled a little. "Promise me something. Promise me that no matter what happens, we'll find each other when we wake up." "I promise," Jun-woo said, kissing her one last time. "See you tomorrow." He knew it was a lie about tomorrow, but it felt better than saying goodbye for 500 years. All around them, other families were saying goodbye too. Old people hugged their grandchildren. Parents held their babies tight before putting them in special small pods. Some people cried. Some people prayed. Some people just stood quietly, too scared to make any sound. Park So-young watched it all from her control station. She had helped design these machines, but she still couldn't believe they were really doing this. "The whole human race is going to sleep," she said to herself. "What if we never wake up?" Dr. Kim Min-ho heard her worry. He walked over and put his hand on her shoulder. "The computers will take care of everything. They'll clean the air, grow new forests, and fill the oceans with fish again. When we wake up, Earth will be like it was before we heard it." "But what if something goes wrong?" So-young asked. "What if the machines break? What if aliens find us while we're sleeping?" Min-ho didn't have answers for those questions. Nobody did. This was the biggest risk humans had ever taken. "Then at least we tried," he said. "At least we didn't just give up and die." The last families were getting into their pods now. Jun-woo lay down in his cold metal bed and watched as the glass cover came down over his face. He could see Mi-ran in the pod next to him. She waved at him until the sleeping gas made her close her eyes. The machines began to hum louder. Green lights flashed on every pod, showing that the people inside were alive but sleeping deeply. Their hearts beat very slowly. Their bodies stayed cold. They would not age or get sick or hungry. They would just sleep and dream of a better world. Park So-young typed commands into her computer. "All systems are working," she announced. 10 million people are now in deep sleep. Dr. Kim Min-ho was the last person to get into a pod. He looked around the huge room one more time. It was quiet now except for the soft sound of the machines breathing for all the sleeping people. He had done everything he could. Now it was up to time and hope. "Computer, begin the healing program," he said out loud. "Fix our world while we sleep." "Program started," the computer said in a calm voice. "Expected completion time, 500 years." Min-ho lay down in his pod and closed his eyes. The glass cover came down. The sleeping gas filled his lungs. His last thought was a prayer that when he opened his eyes again, the world would be green and beautiful and safe for human children to play in. The underground rooms became silent. Above ground, Earth began a long, slow journey back to health. Machines planted trees where cities used to be. They cleaned the rivers and lakes. They brought animals back from special storage and let them run wild in empty lands. And deep underground, 10 million humans slept and dreamed of tomorrow. The years passed like pages in a book that nobody was reading. 1 year became 10, then 50, then 100. Earth spun around the sun again and again while the sleeping humans dreamed in their cold metal beds deep underground. Above ground, amazing things were happening. The machines that Dr. Kim Min-ho had built were working perfectly. Giant robots moved across the dead lands, planting millions of trees. Other machines cleaned the dirty rivers and lakes, making the water clear and blue again. The poisoned air slowly became fresh and sweet. Where big cities used to stand, green forests grew tall. The machines brought back animals from special storage places and set them free. Deer ran through the woods. Birds sang in the trees. Fish swam in the clean rivers. Earth was becoming beautiful again, just like the sleeping humans had hoped. But something strange was happening to the people sleeping underground. They didn't know it because they were dreaming, but their bodies were changing in ways that nobody expected. The sun sends invisible rays of energy toward Earth all the time. Usually, Earth's magnetic field stops most of these rays from reaching the ground. But every few years, the magnetic field gets weaker or stronger, like a light that flickers on and off. When this happened, some of the sun's energy reached the underground sleeping places. This energy was very gentle, like warm sunlight through a window. It couldn't hurt the sleeping people, but it did something incredible. It slowly changed their DNA, the tiny instructions inside their cells that make them human. Day after day, year after year, century after century, the energy made small changes to their bodies and minds. Park So-young was dreaming of flying over green mountains when the energy touched her sleeping form. She didn't feel anything, but inside her cells, something was becoming different. Her muscles were growing stronger. Her brain was making new connections. Her body was learning to do things that no human had ever done before. Lee Jun-woo dreamed of holding hands with Mi-ran in a field of flowers. While he slept, the energy was changing him too. His bones became harder than steel but still light. His eyes were learning to see things far away and very small things up close. His mind was becoming faster and smarter. All around the world, in sleeping places under every continent, millions of humans were slowly transforming into something more than human. They were still people, but they were becoming the kind of people that old stories talked about, people with special powers and abilities. The machines that watched over them noticed small changes. Heart rates were different. Brain activity was unusual. But the computers thought this was normal. The sleeping people were healthy and safe, so the machines kept doing their job of healing the planet. In the year 2543, something new happened. A big spaceship appeared near Earth, moving between the planets like a metal whale swimming through dark water. Inside the ship were creatures called the Altari. They looked like humans, but had blue skin and 4 arms. They had been traveling through space for thousands of years looking for planets to use. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at Earth through powerful telescopes. He was old, even for an Altari, and he had seen many dead worlds before. His 4 hands moved over the control panels as he studied the planet below. "What do you see, Commander?" asked his assistant. A young Altari named Quindar Veltar made notes on his electronic pad. "Same thing we always see," he said sadly. "Another species that destroyed their own world. Look at the readings from 500 years ago. Massive pollution, nuclear weapons, dying oceans. They probably killed themselves fighting over the last clean water." The ship's computers scanned Earth from top to bottom. They saw the beautiful forests and clean rivers. They saw the animals running free. But they didn't see any cities or buildings or signs of intelligent life. "The planet healed itself after they died," Quindar said, looking at the green and blue world below. "It's beautiful now." "Yes," Veltar agreed. "This always happens. A species grows smart enough to build cities and machines, but not smart enough to take care of their world. They use up everything and then disappear. The planet recovers, but the people are gone forever. The Altari had seen this happen on dozens of worlds. It made them sad, but it also gave them opportunities. Dead planets were full of useful materials that nobody was using anymore. "Begin the mining operations," Veltar ordered. "Set up bases on the empty continents. Take what metals and minerals we need for our ships." Big Altari machines came down from space and started digging huge holes in the ground. They were careful not to hurt the new forests and animals. The Altari were not evil. They just needed materials to build their spaceships and cities. Since no one was using Earth anymore, they thought it was okay to take what they needed. The Altari never thought to look deep underground. Their scanners were designed to find cities and roads and buildings on the surface. They never imagined that millions of humans were sleeping far below, slowly changing into something the galaxy had never seen before. Deep in their cold beds, the humans continued to dream while their bodies became stronger and their minds became sharper. Above them, alien machines dug holes and took rocks and metals. Neither group knew the other existed. The silent Earth kept its biggest secret hidden, waiting for the day when the dreamers would finally wake up. The alarm sound was very soft, like a gentle bell ringing far away. Dr. Kim Min-ho heard it in his dreams first. Then slowly his eyes began to open. For a moment he couldn't remember where he was or what year it was. Then everything came rushing back. The dying Earth, the great sleep, the hope for a better tomorrow. But something was wrong. No, not wrong. Something was incredibly right. Min-ho sat up in his sleeping pod and felt amazing. His body felt like it was full of electricity and power. His muscles were strong, stronger than they had ever been. When he put his hand on the metal edge of his bed to steady himself, the hard steel bent like soft clay under his fingers. He stared at the twisted metal in shock. "What happened to me?" he whispered. Across the huge underground room, other people were waking up too. The machines had done their job perfectly. After 500 years of sleep, millions of humans were opening their eyes to a new world. Park So-young woke up in the pod next to Min-ho. The first thing she noticed was that she could hear everything. Not just loud sounds, but tiny sounds too. She could hear the heartbeats of people waking up on the other side of the enormous room. She could smell things she had never smelled. Before, the metal of the machines, the clean air coming through the vents, even the fear and excitement of the people around her. "Min-ho," she said in a normal voice, but somehow her words carried clearly across the vast space. "What's happened to us?" Min-ho looked at her in amazement. He could see her perfectly, even though she was far away. His eyes seemed to zoom in, like a camera showing him every detail of her face. She looked exactly the same as she did 500 years ago, but there was something different in her eyes. They seemed brighter, more alive. All around them, people were sitting up in their pods and making surprised sounds. A man nearby tried to stand up and accidentally jumped 10 feet in the air. A woman touched a broken machine and somehow it started, working again. Everyone was discovering that their bodies could do impossible things. Lee Junwoo woke up and immediately looked for his wife, Miran. She was in the pod right next to him, just like they had planned. But when he tried to check if she was okay, something strange happened. Without even thinking about it, Junwoo reached toward a computer screen near his bed. He didn't touch it, but suddenly his mind connected with the machine. Information started flowing into his brain like water flowing into a cup. He could see data, numbers, reports, everything the computers had recorded for 500 years. In just a few seconds, he learned what had happened to Earth while they slept. The forests had grown back, the air was clean, the animals were healthy and free. It was more beautiful than they had ever hoped. But he also learned something else, something that made his heart beat faster. "We're not human anymore," he said quietly, his voice filled with wonder. "We're something more." Miran opened her eyes and smiled at him. When she sat up, she moved like a dancer, graceful and smooth. "I feel different," she said. "I feel like I could run to the moon." All over the world, the same thing was happening. In sleeping places under every continent, millions of people were waking up with amazing new abilities. They were stronger than any human had ever been. They were faster and smarter. Their senses could detect things that should have been impossible to notice. Some people discovered they could talk to machines with their minds. Others found they could see in the dark or hear sounds from miles away. A few could even sense the feelings and thoughts of people near them. Dr. Kim Min-ho stood up carefully, trying not to break anything else. His mind was working faster than it ever had before. He understood things that had confused him for years. Complex problems seemed simple now. The energy, he said suddenly. The solar radiation that reached us while we slept. It changed our DNA. It made us evolve. Park So-young nodded. Her enhanced mind had figured out the same thing. We went to sleep as regular humans. We woke up as something new. As more people woke up and discovered their new abilities, they began to share information. Using their strange new power to connect with computers, they learned everything that had happened during their long sleep. That's when they discovered they were not alone. Junwoo was downloading data from a satellite when he found the signals. Radio waves from space, pictures from telescopes, evidence of alien visitors who had been on Earth for over 100 years. There are others here, he announced to the growing crowd of awakened humans. Aliens. They've been mining our planet. They think we're extinct. The news spread quickly from person to person, not through talking but through their new mental abilities. They could share thoughts and information faster than any phone or computer. Min-ho felt a strange mix of emotions. They had hoped to wake up to a peaceful, healed Earth. Instead, they had discovered that aliens had been treating their world like an empty mine. But as he looked around at the other awakened humans, he felt something else, something powerful. They were no longer the weak, desperate people who had gone to sleep 5 centuries ago. They had become something incredible, something the universe had never seen before. It was time to meet their uninvited guests. Commander Veltar was having his morning drink when the alarm started screaming on his spaceship. The bridge filled with red flashing lights and loud warning sounds. His 4 hands moved quickly over the control panels, trying to understand what was happening. "Commander," shouted his assistant Quindar, running into the room. "We're detecting massive energy, readings from the planet's surface. Something big just happened down there." Veltar looked at the screen showing Earth below. For over 100 years, his people had been quietly mining the empty planet. They had never seen any signs of life except for animals and plants. But now energy signals were coming from all over the world. Could it be the mining machines malfunctioning? Veltar asked. "No, sir," Quindar replied, checking his instruments. "This energy is different. It's like millions of brains suddenly turning on at the same time." Veltar felt a cold fear in his stomach. In all his years of space travel, he had never seen anything like this. "Prepare a contact team," he ordered. "We're going down to investigate." An hour later, Veltar's small ship landed in what used to be the city of Seoul. The Altari had been mining metals from the old buildings there, leaving piles of twisted metal and concrete everywhere. But as Veltar walked out of his ship, he saw something that made him stop in shock. A human man was standing there waiting for them. The man was tall and looked perfectly healthy. He was wearing simple clothes, but there was something about him that made Veltar nervous. The human seemed calm and confident, like he owned the whole planet. "Welcome to Earth," the man said, speaking perfect Altari language. His voice was friendly but strong. "My name is Choi Hyjin, though I believe you've been here uninvited for some time." Veltar's mouth fell open. How could this human speak their language? The Altari had never made contact with Earth before. Their language was completely different from any human tongue. "How do you know our language?" Veltar asked, trying to sound brave. Hyjin smiled. "I learned it from your radio signals a few minutes ago. Your people talk a lot when they think. Nobody is listening." While they were talking, other humans appeared from behind the piles of debris. Veltar watched in amazement as a woman picked up a huge piece of metal that should have weighed as much as a car. She lifted it over her head with one hand like it was made of paper. Another human was standing near Veltar's spaceship, not even touching it, but somehow the ship's computers were responding to him. The alien could see his own ship's lights flashing as the human accessed the systems from 50 feet away. "This is impossible," Veltar whispered to Quindar. "Humans are supposed to be a dead species, and even when they were alive, they couldn't do things like this." More humans arrived, led by an older man who walked with the confidence of a leader. Veltar could feel power radiating from him like heat from a fire. This was Dr. Kim Min-ho, though the alien commander didn't know his name. "Your mining operations end today," Min-ho announced, his voice carrying easily across the destroyed cityscape. He didn't sound angry, just completely certain that what he said would happen. Veltar tried to regain control of the situation. He was a commander of the Altari fleet. He had dealt with many species across the galaxy. He would not be intimidated by a few surviving humans. "Now wait just a minute," Veltar said, puffing out his chest. "We have been using this planet legally. There are no intelligent inhabitants here. Our surveys proved that your species went extinct centuries ago." "Your surveys were wrong," said a human woman who appeared beside Minho. This was Park So-young, though she looked exactly as young as she had 500 years ago. "We were sleeping, not dead, and we woke up very different from when we went to sleep." To prove his authority, Veltar signaled to his guards. They raised their energy weapons, the same weapons that had intimidated dozens of other species across the galaxy. Park So-young looked at the weapons for just a moment. She didn't move, didn't even lift her hand. But suddenly all the alien weapons stopped working. The energy cells went dead. The targeting system shut down. The weapons became nothing more than expensive metal clubs. "How did you do that?" Veltar demanded, his voice cracking with fear. "I asked them nicely to stop working," So-young replied calmly. "Machines listen to us now." He-jin stepped forward. "We don't seek conflict with your people, Commander. We understand you thought this planet was empty. But you need to understand something important. This is our world, and we are not the species you remember." To demonstrate, He-jin reached out and touched a pile of broken concrete. The rubble began to reshape itself, forming a perfect chair. Then he sat down and gestured for Veltar to sit across from him. "Let's talk," He-jin said. "Your people and mine need to reach an understanding." Veltar looked around at the humans surrounding him. They weren't threatening him, but he could feel the incredible power they possessed. His advanced weapons were useless. His technology was inferior to their natural abilities. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Veltar realized he was not the strongest being in the room. 3 weeks after first contact, everything had changed. The Gyakar, Altari mining bases on Earth, were now working with humans instead of against them. But this was just the beginning of something much bigger. Lee Junwoo stood on the bridge of a brand new spaceship that looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. It was sleek and beautiful, made from materials that the humans had created by thinking new arrangements of atoms into existence. The ship didn't need fuel like other spaceships. Instead, it ran on energy that Junwoo and his crew could generate with their minds. "Are you ready for this?" asked Miran, who was now his co-pilot. She could navigate through space by sensing the gravitational fields of planets and stars, like a bird that knows which way to fly without looking at a map. "As ready as anyone can be," Junwoo replied. "We're about to visit the homeworlds of the Altari. No human has ever been that far from Earth." The journey that would have taken the Altari months was completed by the human ship in just days. Junwoo's vessel moved through space in ways that seemed to bend the rules of physics. When they arrived at the Altari home system, every alien ship in the area stopped what they were doing to stare at the impossible craft. The Altari Council was a group of the oldest and wisest leaders from their species. They met in a huge crystal building that floated in space between 2 moons. When Junwoo walked into their meeting chamber, wearing simple Earth clothes, they didn't know what to expect. "Honorable Council," Junwoo began, speaking their language perfectly. "I come here not as an enemy, but as someone who wants you to understand the truth about my people." The eldest Altari, a being so old his blue skin had turned almost white, leaned forward in his chair. "We have heard reports that are difficult to believe. Our commander says your species has abilities that should be impossible. Junwoo nodded. 500 years ago, you would have been right to call us a failed civilization. We had poisoned our world and were about to destroy ourselves through wars and greed. But instead of dying, we chose to sleep and let our planet heal. He gestured, and suddenly a holographic image appeared in the air above the council table. It showed Earth, as it was during the Great Sleep. Green forests, clean oceans, animals running free. While we slept, the universe changed us. We became more than what we were before. You cataloged us as a failed civilization, but you were wrong. We didn't fail. We transformed. The images changed, showing humans doing impossible things. Lifting. Mountains talking to machines with their thoughts, traveling between stars like they were walking down a street. One of the younger council members stood up. If your people are so powerful, why haven't you taken revenge on us for mining your world? Why haven't you conquered our territories? Junwoo smiled sadly. Because we learned something during our long sleep. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. We almost destroyed ourselves once by being too greedy and violent. We won't make that mistake again. The news of humanity's return spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Other alien species who had been under Altari rule for centuries suddenly had hope. But the humans didn't come as conquerors or liberators. They came as something much more powerful. Teachers. Dr. Kim Min-ho established the first human colony on a dead planet in the Altari system. Within months, the lifeless rock was covered with green plants and flowing water. He didn't use machines or technology. He simply touched the ground and helped it remember how to support life. We slept for centuries and awakened as something the universe has never seen. He told a gathering of ambassadors from dozens of different alien species. We're not here to rule over you or fight with you. We're here to show you that any species can choose to grow instead of die. Representatives from across the galaxy came to learn from the humans. They wanted to understand how a species could face total extinction and emerge stronger than ever. The humans shared their knowledge freely, teaching other races how to heal damaged worlds and how to solve problems without violence. Park So-young became the keeper of human history and wisdom. She traveled from world to world, telling the story of humanity's great sleep and awakening. In her final log entry, she wrote words that would be remembered forever. Humanity's greatest strength was never our technology or our weapons. It was our ability to endure, adapt, and emerge stronger from our darkest hour. We faced the end of everything we knew, and instead of giving up, we chose to become something better. The galaxy will learn this lesson well. As years passed, human ships could be seen traveling between the stars, carrying teachers, healers, and guides to worlds that needed help. They weren't spreading human rule or human law. They were spreading human wisdom, the knowledge that failure can become transformation, that endings can become beginnings, and that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to change into something completely new. The species that had once been hours away from extinction had become the galaxy's greatest. Hope. They had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes you have to sleep in order to dream of becoming something better. And in their dreams, they had found the power to make those dreams come true.